All right, strap in everyone, because today we are going deep on Elon Musk.
Ooh, diving into the world of Elon.
You got it.
All right.
You provided us with the biography, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, and the quest for a fantastic future. And honestly, I'm excited to kind of go past those typical headlines.
Right.
You know, rockets, electric cars. What we really want to get at is he a true revolutionary or just a really, really good marketer?
It's a fascinating question, and I think one of the best ways to kind of unpack that is to really look at the arc of his journey, starting with, his pretty unusual upbringing and going all the way to these ventures that he's involved in now.
So let's start with his childhood then.
Okay.
Born in South Africa.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was a little rough, right?
Yeah, his childhood was definitely not, all roses and sunshine.
Right.
His parents divorced when he was pretty young. He had to deal with bullying.
Wow.
But it's interesting looking back how all of that kind of early adversity seems to have really fueled this incredible drive and ambition that he has.
It's almost like he developed this against all odds mentality from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
From a young age, he was so focused, sometimes even to the point of seeming a little rude.
Oh, really?
Just completely in his own world, very much absorbed in books and his own thoughts.
Oh.
There are all these stories about him reading entire encyclopedias.
Really?
Teaching himself to code at 12 years old.
What?
Even creating and selling his own video game, Blaster.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just a hobby for him. You can kind of see in that early entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
And this drive to understand and master these really complex systems.
Coding video games at 12.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Pretty impressive.
Okay, so how does he go from programming whiz kid to, Elon Musk, right? As we know him.
Yeah, well, he moves to Canada.
Okay.
Then the U.S., really, to pursue his dreams. And his first big venture is Zip2, this web software company.
Okay.
And remember, this is the early 90s.
Yeah.
This is the dawn of the internet, so really early on. Zip2, what they did is they provided online city guide software to newspapers.
Oh, wow.
And ultimately, they sold that company to Compaq for, get this, $307 million.
I mean, that's incredible.
Huge win, yeah.
Talk about, early success, right?
Yeah, you would think at that point he would say, okay, I'm done.
Right, exactly.
I'm set, can relax.
Yeah, retire on a beach.
But not Elon. That's not how he operates.
No, not at all.
So his next big thing is X.com, which was this online financial services company.
Okay.
And this is the company that eventually morphed into PayPal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's actually with PayPal that I think you really start to see those classic Elon Musk patterns emerge.
What do you mean?
Pushing the boundaries, disrupting established industries.
Okay.
Almost inviting a kind of chaos to reach these goals that he set.
And I've heard stories about, intense power struggles within PayPal. Is that part of his leadership style, I guess, would you say?
Well, he's definitely known to be a very demanding leader, sometimes even abrasive,
Okay.
And there definitely were clashes within PayPal over strategy, over technology.
Interesting.
He was even ousted as CEO while on his honeymoon. Can you believe that?
Oh my goodness.
That's just wild. But in the end, PayPal was this massive success.
Right.
They sold it to eBay for $1.5 billion in 2002.
So at this point, 2 massive wins in a row.
Yeah.
Most people would be content, right? I think.
For sure.
Okay, I'm set for life.
Yeah, multiple times over.
Exactly.
But again, not Elon Musk.
Not Elon.
And this is actually where I think we start to see some of those deeper motivations.
Okay.
Because his next venture, SpaceX and Tesla, these are really born out of these lifelong passions.
Right.
Space exploration, sustainable energy. For him, these aren't just business opportunities.
Right.
It's almost like these missions.
Wow.
Driven by this deep belief that he can change the world.
Okay, so let's talk SpaceX first.
Right.
Starting a private space company in the early 2000s, that sounds absolutely insane.
Everyone thought he was nuts.
Yeah.
At the time, the space industry was dominated by these huge government agencies.
Right, like NASA.
Yeah, exactly, NASA. And private space ventures were completely unheard of.
Wow.
He even traveled to Russia, tried to buy refurbished ICBMs, these intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Wait, he was trying to buy ICBMs?
Yeah, imagine that.
That's wild.
And they basically laughed him out of the room.
Oh my goodness.
So what does he do? He decides, all right, fine, I'll build my own rockets.
Classic Elon.
Yeah, I know, right?
So how did he even begin to pull that off?
It's incredible. He assembled this team of brilliant engineers.
Okay.
bought a former Boeing factory in Hawthorne, California.
Wow.
And just started building these Falcon rockets from scratch.
So he really did just start from nothing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And of course, SpaceX faced a ton of setbacks along the way.
I can imagine.
3 launch failures, which almost bankrupted the company.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really tough.
So it sounds like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Even for someone like Elon, right?
Yeah, even for him.
Was there like a moment in all of this that really shows his approach to problem solving?
There's this great anecdote in the book about the sun visor in the Tesla Model S.
Okay.
So he's on a test drive.
Yeah.
And he becomes completely fixated on this seemingly minor detail.
Oh, really?
The stitching on the visor is a little off.
Okay.
You can see the screws, and he's insisted, like, I want the best sun visor in the world.
Wow.
It seemed a little obsessive to some people,
Yeah.
but it shows how much attention to detail he has,
Yeah.
and how he's constantly pushing every single element
Right.
to its absolute limit.
So it's not just about these grand visions,
No,
it's the tiny little details too.
It's all of it.
Wow.
It's everything.
Okay.
So that level of attention to detail, combined with these really ambitious deadlines,
Yeah.
it created this really intense, high-pressure environment at both SpaceX and Tesla.
Right.
But it also attracted the top talent, the best engineers
Yeah.
who were drawn to the challenge. And this idea of being part of something truly groundbreaking.
It's like he cultivated this like impossible's nothing kind of culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And that culture would be tested like never before in 2008,
Okay.
when both SpaceX and Tesla faced near collapse. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
All right, we'll be right back. Okay, so SpaceX and Tesla facing near collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a low point.
It was a very, very difficult time for him.
Yeah.
2008, the financial crisis is in full swing.
Right.
SpaceX has just suffered another failed launch, their 3rd in a row.
Oh, wow.
Tesla's burning through cash, struggling to ramp up production of the Roadster.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that, his marriage is falling apart.
Wow, that's a lot.
It was an incredibly difficult period for him, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, most people would probably just give up at that point.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
But not Elon Musk. He doesn't give up that easily.
He's got that resilience, right?
Yeah, he doubled down, showed incredible resilience, poured his remaining fortune into both companies,
Wow.
convinced his investors to stay the course, and even managed to secure a $465 million loan from the U.S. government for Tesla.
Wow.
I mean, these were risky moves, but they paid off.
It sounds like that was kind of a turning point for him, in a way.
I think it was a pivotal moment, yeah.
Yeah.
Before this, he was often seen as this reckless risk taker, but seeing his determination to save both companies,
Right.
even when it meant putting everything on the line, I think that earned him a whole new level of respect.
Yeah, like he was all in.
He was all in.
Yeah.
And it paid off. SpaceX finally achieved a successful launch with the Falcon 1 rocket,
Wow.
putting a satellite into orbit, and Tesla secured the funding it needed to survive and launched the Model S,
Right.
which was this sleek electric sedan that really won over a lot of skeptics.
Yeah, the Model S was huge.
Ridiculous.
It really changed the game.
It did.
I mean, all of a sudden, electric cars weren't just for, eco-conscious drivers.
Right.
It became cool, stylish.
Yeah, it was aspirational.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties back to our earlier question, right? Is he a revolutionary or a brilliant marketer?
Right.
Because he understood that it wasn't just enough to build these innovative products.
Mm-hmm.
He had to craft a really compelling narrative around them.
So he's not just an engineer or a businessman.
Right.
He's kind of like a storyteller in a way.
He's a master storyteller.
Yeah.
He knows how to capture the public imagination
Yeah.
and create this excitement around his ventures.
But we did touch on some of the dissenting voices earlier.
We did, yeah.
What about the people who are a little more critical of his achievements?
Yeah, the book definitely presents some contrasting perspectives.
Okay.
Like, for example, economist Tyler Cowen.
Okay.
He acknowledges Musk's business acumen, but he questions whether he's really pushing those technological boundaries. He argues that we've already picked the low-hanging fruit in terms of technological innovation,
Okay.
and that what Musk is doing is really more refining existing technologies.
So more evolution than revolution.
That's kind of his argument, yeah.
Okay.
He also questions the practicality of some of Musk's more ambitious goals, like colonizing Mars.
Right.
He sees it as this hugely expensive and risky endeavor endeavor
Yeah.
with unclear benefits.
It's a good point. It's a valid point.
It is.
What about Vaclav Smil, the energy and manufacturing expert?
Yeah, so Smil has a slightly different perspective.
Okay.
He points to the decline of U.S. manufacturing
Okay.
and argues that Musk is kind of an anomaly.
Oh, really?
Because while a lot of companies have been outsourcing production,
Right.
Musk is really focused on this idea of vertical integration.
Okay.
So building factories in the U.S. and controlling every single aspect of the manufacturing process.
So for people who aren't familiar with that term, can you kind of break down what vertical integration means?
Yeah, sure. Vertical integration basically means that a company owns and controls multiple stages of its supply chain.
Oh, okay.
So in Tesla's case, for example, this means they manufacture not just the cars themselves,
Right.
but also a lot of the key components.
Okay.
So the batteries, the motors, the software.
So instead of relying on this network of suppliers,
Yeah.
he's bringing everything in-house.
Exactly. And this gives them more control over quality, cost, speed of innovation.
Wow, it's a bold move.
It is. And it's a key part of what makes Musk's companies so unique.
Right.
He's basically building this whole manufacturing ecosystem from the ground up,
Wow.
which allows him to move much faster
Yeah.
and be more responsive to changes in the market.
It's interesting. It's like both Cowan and Smil, even though they come from these different backgrounds, they both seem to acknowledge the importance of manufacturing
They do.
in a way.
They both recognize that innovation isn't just about ideas. It's about being able to translate those ideas into tangible products.
Yeah.
And that requires a strong manufacturing base.
So where does that leave us then in terms of answering our big question?
Right.
Revolutionary or marketer?
It's tricky, isn't it?
It is.
Because I think there's evidence to support both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the complexity of Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
He's this brilliant engineer,
Yeah.
a visionary entrepreneur, a master marketer,
Yeah.
all rolled into one.
It's a unique combination for sure.
Yeah, and it's this unique combination of talents, along with his relentless drive, and this willingness to defy convention that's made him such a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, but we can't forget about the personal side of things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about his difficult childhood, his first marriage falling apart. I mean, how has his personal life been impacted by this, constant pursuit of his goals?
It's clear that his ambition has come at a cost.
Yeah.
His workaholic nature, that intense focus, it's put a strain on his relationships.
All right.
He's been married and divorced multiple times,
Yeah.
and has even admitted to struggling to find that work-life balance.
It's got to be hard.
It is. And the book even mentions his second marriage to the actress Tallulah Riley.
Right. It was kind of like a whirlwind romance.
It was full of drama.
Yeah.
The married, divorced, remarried, and then divorced again.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot. And Riley has talked about the challenges of being married to someone as driven and demanding as Musk.
Right.
Describing him as emotionally distant and even childlike in some ways.
It's fascinating, though, this contrast, right?
Yes.
Between his incredible accomplishments
Right.
and then this seeming struggle with just basic human connection.
It's a really interesting dichotomy, and it raises these big questions about, the nature of ambition,
Yeah.
the price of success, the sacrifices we're willing to make to achieve our goals.
Those are heavy questions.
They are.
It's like there's this whole other layer to his story
Yeah.
that goes beyond just the business and the technology.
Absolutely. I think there's a deeper psychological element there.
Yeah.
Maybe this relentless drive of his, this need to conquer these seemingly impossible challenges. It comes from somewhere deeper.
Right.
Maybe a need to prove himself, to kind of escape those insecurities and the traumas of his past.
It's almost like he's driven by this force
Yeah.
that just propels him forward, even if it means, pushing himself
Yeah.
and those around him to the limit.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've explored his journey
Yeah.
from that, difficult childhood to these amazing achievements,
Yeah.
the different perspectives on his impact, the personal sacrifices along the way.
It's been quite the journey.
It has, but what does this all mean for us?
Right.
How can we, as, regular people, learn from his experiences?
That's a great question, and I think that deserves further exploration.
Okay, so it sounds like that's the perfect segue into the final chapter of our Elon Musk deep dive.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Elon Musk. The man, the myth, the meme. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
What are some things we can take away from all this, from his story, that we can maybe apply to our own lives?
Well, one thing that really jumps out at me is this idea of audacious goal setting.
Okay.
Musk is not afraid to aim for things that seem impossible, whether that's landing rockets on barges,
Right.
or colonizing Mars. And I mean, maybe we don't all have interplanetary ambitions,
Right.
but there's a lesson there about, the power of setting these ambitious goals for yourself.
Because if you set the bar low,
Right.
you're not going to achieve anything groundbreaking.
Exactly. But it's not just about setting those big goals. It's also about having the tenacity to actually pursue them,
Okay.
even when you face setbacks.
Right.
Remember, SpaceX had 3 failed launches before they finally succeeded.
Yeah, that's true.
So Musk's story reminds us that failure is often part of the journey. And it's really our ability to learn from those failures and keep pushing forward that ultimately determines our success.
So kind of embracing failure as a learning opportunity
Exactly.
rather than just giving up.
Absolutely. And I think another key takeaway is the importance of a relentless work ethic.
Okay.
Musk is notorious for working crazy long hours, being incredibly focused.
Right.
And while I wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to replicate his exact schedule,
Right, of course.
I do think there's something to be said for his commitment to putting in the time and effort
Yeah.
to achieve those goals.
Right. So hard work really does pay off.
It does. It really is, especially when you're trying to do something new and innovative.
Now let's talk about first principles thinking.
Okay.
Because that's something he talks about a lot.
He does.
Can you kind of break that down?
Yeah, so first principles thinking is essentially about breaking down these complex problems into their fundamental elements and then reasoning up from there. So rather than just relying on conventional wisdom or assumptions, you're really questioning everything.
So challenging those assumptions.
Exactly. Like, why does it have to be this way? Is there a better way?
Okay, so it's more about like starting from scratch almost.
Yeah, kind of. A great example of this is Tesla's approach to electric car design.
Okay.
They didn't just try to make a slightly better version of existing electric cars. They completely rethought the whole concept from the ground up.
Oh, wow.
And that led to these innovations like the supercharger network, over-the-air software updates, and this focus on performance and style that really set them apart from everyone else.
So it's about like thinking outside the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this first principles thinking could be applied to anything, really.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool for innovation, problem solving, really in any field.
So another interesting thing about Musk is his emphasis on like speed and agility.
Yeah, he's known for setting those aggressive deadlines, pushing his teams to move quickly.
And it seems like he operates at a different pace than most,
He does.
traditional companies.
He does. And while that can create this really high pressure environment,
Yeah, bet.
it also fosters this culture of innovation
Okay.
and really rapid iteration. So instead of getting stuck in endless planning and analysis, they just get things out there, test them, learn, improve quickly.
So it's kind of like the move fast and break things
Exactly.
philosophy of Silicon Valley, but applied to rockets and cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we can't talk about Musk without talking about sustainability.
Right.
Like his commitment to sustainable energy is huge.
It is, and his investments in things like solar power, electric vehicles, battery technology, they all demonstrate this deep concern for the planet.
Yeah.
And this belief that we need to transition away from fossil fuels.
And he's not just talking about it, he's actually doing it.
He's putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's proving that sustainable technology can be commercially successful.
Yeah.
Desirable even.
Exactly. But, it's also important to acknowledge that he does have his critics.
Of course. Right.
Yeah, and some people argue that his focus on technology as the solution to everything is a little too simplistic.
Okay.
They point out that we also need to address those social and political issues and be mindful of the potential downsides of these technological advancements.
And there are concerns about, like, the ethical implications of some of his work, especially with artificial intelligence.
He's even expressed his own fears about AI.
Right.
Warning that it could pose this, existential threat to humanity.
Wow.
If it's not developed responsibly.
So big questions.
Big questions, and it's important to have these conversations to really weigh the potential benefits and the risks of these emerging technologies.
It's up to us to figure out, how we want technology to shape our future.
Exactly. It's our responsibility.
So after all of this, where do you stand on our initial question? Is Musk a revolutionary or just a really brilliant marketer?
I think he's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely a brilliant engineer and entrepreneur, but he's also this master of storytelling and branding.
Yeah.
And I think he understands that to really change the world, you need both.
Yeah.
You need those innovative products, but you also need this compelling narrative that inspires people and captures their imagination.
He's a complex figure, that's for sure.
He is.
But there's no denying his impact.
Right.
He's pushing the boundaries of technology, challenging conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
and really forcing us to confront these possibilities of what humanity can achieve.
I think he's a reminder that we live in this era of unprecedented change. An era where these audacious goals can be achieved.
Right.
Where innovation can happen really fast.
Yeah.
And the future isn't predetermined, it's something we can actively shape.
This has been a wild ride.
It had a really fascinating deep dive into Elon Musk.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
My pleasure. Until next time.